Good morning, good Saturday. Hello, everyone. Welcome into today's show. It is March 20th. As you have seen by the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about NBA today. A lot of action going on the last few days. The season is not quite over yet. We're a little past the halfway point, but it feels like it. It feels like we're almost there. We got a new play-in tournament this year that we didn't have last year, so we'll be talking about that a little bit today too, and we'll just be talking about our predictions for the playoffs. I on Instagram I asked some of our viewers, Carlos and Lizzie both suggested that we talk about the NBA, so we're making the show the viewer's choice. We'll talk about
Bringing it to you.
We're talking about that today. Joined as always by my best of buddies, Jay and Andrew. What's going on, guys?
Happy Saturday. What's going on, man? Great to see you guys.
And good morning, Elizabeth. How are you today? So it's we're gonna have a nice smooth show. Come and relax with us. Drink some coffee. We're gonna be drinking some coffee too. It's the fuel that keeps the fire burning.
Exactly.
Okay. So we gotta first start off by let's just chat for a few. Okay, so this is NBA show. We're gonna chat about the NBA, but we're gonna chat about some blasphemy possibly. We're gonna be sided on it maybe a little bit different as we chat about these next few topics. But so for the first one, we're gonna chat about Kia's MVP ladder. And if you watched the other show where we talked about the NBA, I might have said Nikola Jokic is my MVP candidate for this year. So I'm kind of happy that he's getting some recognition, and rightfully so. This fool has just been playing really silly lately. Triple doubles. He's just like, hey, what's up? I lead the team in points. I lead the team in rebounds. I lead the team in assists. I lead the team in steals. I'm a big guy, and I lead the team in steals. Funny enough, he doesn't lead the team in blocks. Go figure. But he leads the team in minutes.
Out of all things, right?
Number one?
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
so
number one now?
we'll scroll down here. We'll scroll down here a little bit. So some of the stats, he's had like 37 double doubles. In like 41 games or something, some nonsense like that. His stats for the month of March have been higher than his overall season stats. I think his steals per game this month was like 1.4, so his overall is 1.6. Okay, so stop stealing the ball, big man. I mean, whatever. But yeah, he's been nice for that Denver Nuggets team that's won like 9 out of their last 10 games, I think, at this point, and climbing up the standings a little bit. We're not going to play this video, but yeah, I just wanted to scroll down the Kia MVP ladder. Okay, so you guys know my thoughts about Jokic, and so be it. Okay, so next on the list is Dame, which, I mean, this kid was lighting the world on fire this past week, so understandably so. On the season, he's averaged 30 points, 4.5 rebounds, a little under 8 assists. So, I mean, that's like, obviously real nice. On most nights he's going to lead the team in points and assists, and most nights he's going to hit some like 70-yard bomb from behind the other team's 3-point arc.
He had 50 the other day against Portland
on only 20 shots,
and they're missing a ton of people, man. I mean, they've been without Nurkic for a long time. I mean, Enes Kanter is starting at the center for them, which is basically a free reign for every other team and just attack the basket and get any offensive boards they would like. CJ McCollum just barely came back the other day. CJ McCollum was balling in the first 16 games of the season before he got hurt. He was absolutely lighting it up. Let me go get that one. But yeah, so I think Dame should be ahead of Jokic. Andrew, what do you think?
I mean, I don't mind Jokic being, in the discussion, and I'm happy that our boy Ace is, his prediction and the guy that he's riding for is at the top of this ladder, and he's getting some recognition, like you mentioned. I like Dame too. I kind of think they're all, a little behind a different guy that we'll talk about in a second. Right now, it's a little more. I think it's a little more narrative based. The Nuggets and Blazers are tied for the 5th or 6th seed, however you want to slice it. They're both 25-16. They've won their last 3 games. They're 7-3, 8-2, respectively in the last 10. So they're playing great ball right now, especially. And CJ finally had a breakout game from coming back from injury. So the Trailblazers really needed that. He had 30 points in their previous win not too long ago. So the Blazers definitely want him back. And like you mentioned, Nurkic too. Once they get him back, the Blazers could be they're going to be a team that I mentioned later. They're a really good ball club, but I don't know what their ceiling is completely. But here's this other guy, Giannis. This is my pick for the MVP this year, but I may have to skew off course a little bit.
He's like a poor man's Jokic right here.
What?
A poor man?
A poor man's Jokic?
I mean, I said what I said. I mean, okay, we're just chatting, guys. This is, remember, like we said it. We're just chatting.
Of course, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to be right. We could just be. We can say things and just have them be said and not have to feel like we're not,
a lot more fun that way.
Yes.
I'm talk about sports.
Yeah, I mean, so Giannis is obviously going to be in the mix till the end of the season. He's been putting up obvious great stats this year. Just under 30 points per game, 11, almost 12 rebounds a game, 6 assists, and a little under 1.5 steals and blocks a game. So obviously, real nice Clark. But
I was just gonna say, if you can scroll back up, Asa, and just cover LeBron at 4, just right at 3. Yeah. So we've gotten to 3 now, right? And there's a certain gentleman who has not been listed yet.
Well, that certain gentleman, for dramatic effect, is LeBron James.
Blasphemy!
Yeah.
Blasphemy! Ridiculous!
Talk about poor man's Jokic right here. 25.5 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 8 assists a game, and 1.1 steals. So, I mean, okay, obviously, LeBron James is having a real nice season, which is compounded on the fact that Anthony Davis has missed time since, I think, Valentine's Day. So, yeah, he went down on February 14th. That's Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, and people are giving them a lot of heat because they went 7-7 in that time, but right after Anthony Davis got hurt, Dennis Schroeder was in COVID protocols and missed 5 games. And in though they lost 4 out of those 5 games, and then since Dennis Schroeder's been back, they're 7-2. They're on a 4-game winning streak since the All-Star break. LeBron has dropped 2 triple-doubles since that time and dropped 37 against the Hornets in a blow. And it was kind of a blowout. They got kind of close, and then they ended up pulling away by about 11 at the end.
Oldest player in NBA history with that, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to find like another reason. Like it just seems like we're finding reasons to not give him the award instead of finding reasons to give him the award, because the reasons to give him the award are just kind of like right in front of our face. It's Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has been gone for I have it right here. Give me one sec. It's
18
been
games.
18 games this season. Out of the 41 of them that have been played, and the Lakers still
with his injury too, he's likely to nurse it like as much as he can before the playoffs start. So
right,
I could
it's
in
an
my
Achilles,
mind.
bro. Yeah, it's an Achilles. You want no part of that.
Well, the Lakers stand 2 games behind the Utah Jazz right now in record, and the Jazz have not been as hot recently, 5-5 in their last 10 games. So there's possibility that. I think if LeBron gets the Lakers to the 1 seed, then I think he will win it running away. I just don't know if the Lakers are going to keep pushing for that 1 seed throughout the rest of the season. So that's kind of where I think it's a little foolish on the NBA to not give this guy some more credibility. And we can just kind of breeze through Joel. Obviously, he's hurt. He missed time at the beginning of the season, so that's not going to play into his odds of winning the MVP, which is why he went from number 1 to number 5 on Kia's MVP ladder.
So can I ask you real quick, if you can go back to LeBron? If you can go back to LeBron, and this is something that we can just talk about since we're just chatting, right? Why does it seem like these all-time greats don't end up with the MVPs that you would think, right? Kobe had 2.
Yeah, Kobe had 2 and lost 2 to Steve Nash, which...
Oh, 1! Right, Andrew Craig. He had 1. Right, he had 1.
1. He lost 2 to Steve Nash, if I remember correctly.
And 1 to Tim Duncan. And they were, if you look at the numbers, I don't have them off the top of my head, but if you look at the numbers for those seasons, it was ridiculous. I remember one season, it was Kobe averaging like 34.7 points per game. and they didn't give it to him. It's like, you're not even joking right now. Like, that's just not even close. And, nowadays, me and Andrew talked about it before, there's like 19 guys in the NBA that are averaging over like 24 points a game. That was not the norm. The pace of the game is so much faster.
Right.
The volume of shots.
If I could interject real quick, I saw a stat
please.
the other day. This is something that's going to blow your guys' minds. We said 19 guys were averaging over 20 points a game. There are 41 players in the NBA right now averaging over 20 points a game. That's not a time. I swear. There are 41 players.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Okay, so here's another reason I think to believe in the Lakers, so to speak, and so you would then believe in LeBron to win the MVP, and that's besides the New York Knicks, who allow 104 points a game, the Lakers allow 106, which is the best in the West and second best in the league. And then New York Knicks don't have a MVP candidate on that team, as much as Julius Randle has been playing well this season. He most improved player of the year, yeah, but not MVP player of the year. So, yeah, the Lakers also get it done defensively. So, I think that's another overlooked reason. And yeah, like the difference between 106 to the next team 107, and we can get into defensive stats and stuff like that. But we're talking about an older player leading his team to. Not just on offensive stats, because this is what we've been talking about, but it's also there's been contributions on the defensive end. I think we mentioned to LeBron for defensive player of the year too in our last show, because his defensive stats have been really good this season. And to kind of compound that too, like a lot of players avoid him on the defensive end, so they'll be trying to maybe run a pick and roll, run a screen, so that they don't have to line up with LeBron, throwing them hands in his face.
So when you look at the ladder, right? Number one was Jokic. They're fifth in the West, right? Are they fourth? Or are they fifth?
They're tied for fifth. Tied right now with the Trailblazers. So number 1 and 2 on this key ladder are tied with the Trailblazers at 25 and 16, I believe.
Okay, and then Milwaukee they're third in the East. So the Lakers must be fourth, maybe fifth or sixth in the West, right?
No. They're number 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're 2 games back from the best record in the freaking NBA. And this guy is not even the top 3 MVP candidate. Kia, NBA, I'm never buying a Kia. Okay, I'm not going to boycott the NBA because I love watching LeBron. But it's a thought right now with this blasphemous that's going on.
Yeah, no, for sure, bro. I'm with you. Yeah, so
I should not be upset. I should not. It's Sunday morning, 9:15. I got a flight to Disney World later on today. We're feeling good.
And we're just chatting, right? And this guy's getting upset.
I can't help it. The disrespect, man.
So we got Jokic, we got Lillard, we got Antetokounmpo, we got James, we got Embiid, and then our next 5 here, Harden, Luka, Kawhi, Curry, and Jimmy Butler. I think out of those 5, the person that could maybe climb that would be James Harden, just because his team's record will be relatively high at the end of the season, and just the points he scores. I don't really see why Steph is there. His team is a fringe playoff team right now. And as much love as I want to give to like Kawhi, Luka, or Jimmy, they just probably don't make it based on like their team's records not being as high for what it's worth.
See, and I think Luka needs to be higher, bro. I think Luka and James Harden need to be higher. Yeah.
I love Luka, yeah.
I mean, when you look at Luka, he may be starting to suffer, and he's only in his second season, by the way, but he may be starting to suffer from his own greatness. Bro, he's averaging 29, 8.5, and 9.5 right now.
Maybe it's you can look at it too, like, well, if you're putting Dame and you're putting Jokic at the top of this list, and those teams are not the number 1 team in their conferences, so yeah, it makes sense to.
But look at where they would be. Look at where Dallas look at where they would be without Luka, bro. Kristaps missed a bunch of games this year. They started off the season really slow. Even Luka came out and criticized the team. Like, I remember like 3 weeks ago, he was like, "We don't care. We're losing ball games. We don't care that we're losing ball games." Pretty much grabbed that team and said, "Hey, we're moving and grooving here." I mean, right now they're sitting at 8th, right, in the West. Yeah, they're 8th in the West. They're 2 games behind San Antonio. They very well may catch San Antonio, to be honest. LaMarcus Aldridge is not playing for them right now. I think San Antonio is still going to make it in the 7 or 8 seed because they still have a pretty sizable gap over Golden State. It's 2 games right now. Pop's a great coach, and they have a lot of talent that people don't talk about. But between these guys left, Luka, James Harden, and Steph. I mean,
we're gonna get into the MVP chat a little bit later in the program, where I'll ask you guys' MVP. We got some nice content going here about who we think our viewers might already guess who we're talking about. I wanted to shift to another little thing we got blessed with, and that is I'll pull it up right now. You guys are gonna love this if you're.
Is this LeBron stuff? Is this LeBron stuff?
Yeah, this is LeBron stuff.
Woo!
So we're gonna play. LeBron's dunk.
What did this guy say? What did LaMelo say? You got the quote. What did he say?
Okay, so how about you read it first for us, Jay? Do your best. Do your caption reading here for me. Go for it.
I'll do what I can. Foreigners in my yard. Got neighbors in my residence watching. I'm going to be stunting like this until I'm 70. Probably. Longevity. P.S. Kuz. Throw it out the glass next time. Hella set up regardless, my guy. Yo, Kuz. Throw it out the glass, bro. We the Lakers, man. Sideways, toss up, something. You just throw it up. LeBron 6'9", baby. Receiver qualities. You go up there and get that thing.
And I'll be Kuz. I'm still working on this passing thing.
Yeah, you still working on everything, Kuz.
all right, Andrew. Give us the lowdown. What did the youngest Ball brother say?
So it wasn't really like anything super slanderous, but it's like, when you're going up against like an all-time great, you kind of want to have like a better, I guess image going into the game, or not really an image per se, but he was asked about like his matchup and how he feels about it. And those of you who know Lonzo Ball, like Lonzo modeled his entire like game and the way he tried to influence his brothers, and they talked about it a lot about like, he modeled it after LeBron, and people just know that just as long as you follow the NBA. And LaMelo, when asked about it, says, I grew up a little different, not really on basketball like that, so no, not really. I'm not that like excited to play against LeBron. And honestly, like whether it was meant as like, my thing is like, how can you not be excited to play against an all-time great at the sport that you're now playing? Like if I was in the NFL, if I was in the MLB, to be able to have an opportunity to play against an all-time like great, or even take this show for that matter. If I had an opportunity to like, we all had an opportunity to have like be on a platform as big as like ESPN or something, like just even for a moment, like that would excite the hell out of you. Like, how does it not make you excited? And I think it just kind of rubbed people the wrong way. And
let me tell you why it rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're in the National Basketball Association. Mm-hmm. LaMelo Ball, check your fucking self, bro. Yeah, sorry for the F-bomb there, bro. You're getting to play one of the most like highly sought after games as a professional athlete. We're talking about the smallest roster, so the smaller chances to make this roster. You're only a rookie. Your dad is crazy nuts. I get that. I get the whole like, oh, okay, like I'm probably think my shit doesn't smell because my dad is has been in my head ever since I was little. But man, have some damn respect. When you walk into to your local grocery store, do you like start calling out the people that work there? Like do you go to a gas station, say, hey, I'm better than everybody here. Why are you doing it at the NBA? Like, why are you not recognizing that? And let me get to this too. Live in the moment, man. We don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. We don't know if there's going to be more hate crimes in this world. We don't know if we're going to get bad news on something. So you got to respect the fact that, like, you have this moment, you're having a great season, and you have this like platform. And LeBron gets like a lot of flack for using his platform to try to put better things into the world. And so what is that? Does that accomplish anything, Jay? Like him saying that crap, does that accomplish anything for him?
I mean, it just, LeBron doesn't need to get up for any game more than he already does, so it doesn't help. If you can go to the next post, or the post before that, actually, yeah, Good morning, my students. Welcome to today's lesson, English class. Open your books. Chapter 18. Enjoy. Chapter 18. Chapter 18.
Hashtag I'm 36. Look at so right there we're gonna stop it. You got the two Timberwolf defenders. We're looking over here. How many eyes are on LeBron? So we have two guys here in the paint, not looking at LeBron. Number 9 over here is barely looking over. He's like, oh, okay, they're good.
Rubio.
Yeah, you got two defenders on LeBron right here, and they're like, okay, so 2v1, but they see that they have an open Laker right here, so they're gonna one of them has to transition over. You're not talking because look. And then look at his hand. His teammate behind him has his hand up, like, "Why are you walking that way too?" And then, psych! Now we have 3 coming in on 1, but LeBron's at the 3-point line here. But LeBron don't care. LeBron is gonna make it to the rim.
Once he's going to the rim, it's over. Yeah, and then this is just silky. Silky. Anthony, that's Anthony Edwards, first year in the league. Brooke, he don't know what he's doing, but Karl Anthony Towns with a solid little contest, tried to come over, but this guy's just unbelievable. Fake. Get y'all up and then play.
3v1. He knows he can't. He knows he can't slam dunk it. He knows he'll draw a foul if he does. So what does he do? Psych!
Yeah, a little up and under, reverse finish, nastiness.
Yeah, was that Morris in the back just standing watching the whole thing? Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone's so worried about Marcus Morris. They gotta go. Wait, Markieff. I always get him mixed up. Yeah, whichever. They're so worried about him shooting a 3-pointer that they just let LeBron go right to the rim. So it worked, I guess. But might want to guard that guy.
I mean, ultimately, it's kind of hilarious. Like I said, and we can try to inspire our own lives by things that we see. But if you're in the league, like, you have to be inspired by what you see, right? Like, you're seeing an 18-year-old like in the league athlete, so he's 36, right? You're seeing him do all this crazy stuff, and it's awesome to see. And we think, I think we all kind of consensusly think that LaMelo should have a little bit more respect for that. Not necessarily to LeBron himself, but who else was balling like this at 36? Like when we had Carmelo and Gary Payton on our teams back in the day when they were 36, like. Kobe, when he was 36, was injured. It takes a special kind of regimen to keep up with that.
Yeah,
I don't think he was super disrespectful. I just think it was a little weird. Like, he grew up in a time where LeBron James was the dude, the same way we grew up when Kobe being the dude. Just a little sprinkle, a little tidbit here. There are 3 players, and I believe there are 3.
Sprinkles.
Yeah. I believe there are 3 greatest of all time when it comes to basketball. So these are the 3 players that have averaged 27, 5, and 5 over 15 years. There's only 3 of them: Kobe, Jordan, LeBron.
We can just end right there.
You only see greatness a few times, guys. Like, you really do. You know what I'm saying? And that's why when LeBron was talking about coming to the Lakers, everyone's like, "Oh, let's keep the core. What if he's gonna come here to retire? He's lost his step. Ham. Okay, all right, sure. Yeah.
You know what?
Exit screen, Andrew. Exit screen. Don't worry.
I'll
rip you one day. We'll get on here and I'll rip you one day. Don't worry. Yeah, full screen him. That guy, like LaMelo when he had that meme where he's like, put the camera front.
I've never been more proud to be wrong.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna take a hit.
He's always admitted that. He's always admitted
I've never been more proud to be wrong. I thought I don't know. The Lakers brand, they do things the way they do it. They buy their superstars, they buy their talent, they buy their wins, and that works in the NBA. And I thought building from the ground up and taking a different approach was like something I was eager to see. And after about 5 years of Ryan Kelly, I was kind of like, maybe this is not the way to do it. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay being wrong about it, and I'll admit it. I'll admit that I was wrong.
We've all been wrong, atrociously wrong. Like I thought Steph Curry was going to be better than Steph Curry coming out of college. Like, I mean, there's you're wrong sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Mine's
a little worse.
What I love about that, what I love about your stat there, Jay, is it's pure gold, by the way. But everybody talked crap about Kobe for not being a passer, and he was. So, anyways.
Kiss me, Rhea.
He's the only shooting guard in NBA history with 30,000 points and 6,000 assists. Like the two guard position, like again, you want to call him a ball hog, fine. He played 20 seasons. Like he averaged 5.5 for his career. Like you can call him a ball hog all you want, but again, there's a different NBA. Possessions
Absolutely.
matter differently. Like you had one guy taking the big shots, and it was Kobe.
I mean, and then if he was playing, everyone always does this, right? If they were playing in today's league, right? If Kobe's playing today's league, you inflate those stats. I mean, that's 7.5 now, probably. I mean, I'm not trying to hyperbolize it or anything, but probably something around there. So,
absolutely, guys. Okay, so we're gonna get into a little bit more details of our talks. Well, not that we don't spread the goodness here. Yeah. We're gonna pivot to like our viewers' choice part of the show, which is cool and all. Let me just share my screen real quick for y'all. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, love the association, baby. First game I ever fell in love with right here.
Okay, so sorry, a little bit pivoting back and forth here. Okay, so I asked, like I said on Instagram, I asked them, what do you guys want us to talk about? We got a couple NBA, blurbs. So we're talking about the NBA, our real cash show today, and so we can start here looking at the East. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was who we thought our play-in tournament, like realistically might be, and who we think we could see coming out of that play-in tournament. So. For the East, I kind of cut it off at 11 teams. Technically, the dotted line to the hard line are the play-in tournament teams, so that 4 right there. There are obviously more teams in the league. The season is still technically 30 games till completion, but we're gonna mostly see these teams be in it. So I just figured I'd give Toronto a shot and include them too, even though they're a couple games away from Chicago here. I'll go first. I really like the Knicks, not necessarily to make a deep run in the playoffs, but I like them to have a shot here. I think Boston will probably improve slightly record-wise. I could see Boston probably being the 7th seed, Knicks beating, but the Knicks beating the Pacers or Chicago Bulls for that 8th seed. It might be a quick exit for New York in the playoffs if they have to face the 76ers. But if Joel's not back, we'll see, So the way that, and just to give you guys a little bit more, I'll let these guys talk in a sec, but the 7 and the 8 team play, whoever the 7 or the 8 team winner will go on to be the 7th seed. So if it stopped today, the Knicks would play the Celtics. If the Knicks won, the Knicks would be the 7th seed. Then the loser of that game, so let's say it's the Celtics, they'd have to face the winner of the Indiana Pacers Chicago Bulls. So the 7-8 teams will have 2 shots to solidify their spot in the playoffs. So this is obviously something that's never been done before with the shortened 72 game season. What are you guys thoughts on this?
So I was going to say, before we give our predictions, just real quick, I was curious what you guys thought. What do y'all think about that? What do you guys think about this little play-in tournament? Like, hey, so do you like it? You think it's maybe something that they should think about trying to adopt, or do you think just the regular 1 through 8 format is something that really works for the NBA?
Yeah, I think with the fact that you have 16 teams out of 32 making the playoffs is like a lot. So I do like this a little bit. It's kind of like, where I think that in Major League Baseball, where not enough teams make the playoffs, I think the exact opposite of the basketball. Too many teams make the playoffs. We hardly see a 1-8 upset. We occasionally see a 2-7 upset. So, like this year, would the 76ers lose to the Celtics? Possibly if Joel's not back, right?
I mean,
even if Joel's back, but I like Boston. So.
Okay.
I don't
Boston hasn't played well.
I don't like Boston because I'm a Laker fan, but I also don't like Boston just because I don't like Boston, and I'll get into that in a second. But
I think it adds entertainment value. So
100%, yeah. That's what I would say too.
What does it add for the players? If I'm looking at that, I think it adds an opportunity for like a real underdog to make the playoffs. So like Chicago Bulls might be 7 games worse than the Knicks, but could any given day can beat them and then have a shot at the playoffs. So I don't know if I would be like happy. Like honestly, if a 10 seed was facing the 1 seed and then saw a 10 seed win, like I'd probably be like, oh my gosh, this is chaos, and I'd maybe lose a little faith in the system because I think it's trying to reward the fact that there's 10 less games to get into the playoffs, so you have 10 less chances. So we'll just be a little bit flexible with this like play-in tournament, but to me it makes sense as long as it doesn't like something weird doesn't happen. I don't know. I don't know. I'd just be a little perplexed if the Bulls made it to the second round. Is all I'm trying to say.
I completely agree with you. No, it would be weird seeing a team that's very so far under 500, which is what we're projecting the 9 and 10s to be. Right. Make a deep playoff run. I don't expect it to happen, but what I do expect is the 4 teams that are there right now are the ones that are going to be in the play-in tournament. The Knicks, Celtics, Pacers, Bulls, and whatever way you want to slice them. I think the Bulls will probably be the last team in out of there. The Pacers are just getting healthy, so they're going to be pretty formidable going forward, in my opinion. They've played some tough games, especially against the Lakers most recently. They've held leads against good teams like Milwaukee and Brooklyn. But the return of Karis LeVert is promising for them. Domantas Sabonis is a beast in the middle. There's been rumblings about Miles Turner being on the move during this trade deadline, and a couple teams have interest like the Lakers, Nets, and Clippers. But I think if he just stays pat, yeah, it's kind of every year with this thing. But if he stands pat with the Pacers, they'll be able to make it to that 9 spot. I don't see this like I mentioned it before on a previous show. I don't think this is something going forward, and I kind of agree with the fact that there are a lot of teams that make the playoffs in the NBA. MLB could take a page out of their playbook. Excuse me. But I think the last 8-1 seed we saw was probably Golden State back in 2007 against Dallas. So they don't happen often with the Baron Davis led team. So yeah, these 4 seem kind of like the 4 that'll be it from the East.
Okay, so I'm thinking Knicks. I like to make it for sure. You're liking the Pacers. Who's your second team that? You say you don't like Boston, so who do you like to add to that second team to make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, so Boston's the team that I don't believe in, and we're going to touch on that in a second. But I think the Pacers and Bulls, I was mainly focusing on the 9 and 10 spot. The Pacers, like I said, the Pacers finally gotten healthy. I was tempted to pick Washington, but Davis Bertans, their big man 3-point shooter, just picked up another injury that's going to leave him on the pine for about 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not going to read too much into that. The reason why I like Chicago here a little bit is mainly because of Zach LaVine. I'm a UCLA fan, but also a Zach LaVine fan. He's having a career year. He made the All-Star game. Did he make the All-Star game? I think he did, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He did. They're another team that's held leads against good teams, and their biggest problem is closing out games. So I think as long as they can figure out ways to close out games against the easy teams, I guess, quote unquote, and not losing against the Nuggets in overtime is what it is. They had a lead against them too. You'd like to see them close it out, but I think Chicago could kind of squeak in there at the 10 seed. I'm not too sold on Washington, but
so let me pivot instead of asking Jay the same thing, because I think we've kind of given a little bit of context to the 7 through 11 right there. Jay, so we're looking at the standings here, right? Miami's 22-20. Okay. Hawks are 21-20. Hornets are 20-20. The Knicks are 20-21. So like 21-21, right? So like they're technically tied. Do you see any 4 through 6 right there dropping throughout the rest of the season and potentially having to play in that play-in tournament? And then would you feel more comfortable with one of the Heat, Hawks, or Hornets advancing through that play-in tournament?
Yeah, I would like all of their chances to advance over the Knicks. One of the teams that I don't believe in, I didn't talk about them, but I'm not. I mean, I know you like the Knicks, Asa. I don't. They're really young. Julius Randle's their best player. If Julius Randle's your best player, I don't know how far you're going. I think Miami is a lot better. They're getting healthy. They had a lot of COVID stuff go on at the beginning of the year. Jimmy Butler is playing at an elite level right now. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, they're all going to get their shots going. Goran Dragic, veteran player. They just have a really good mix of young, old, seasoned vets, guys who have now, gone through that playoff ringer. The Atlanta Hawks, they are what they are. Clint Capella was a good addition. Trae Young's good. John Collins has been rumored to be on the move, but I don't think he's going to get moved. And Charlotte is Charlotte. I mean, could I see Charlotte falling out into like the Knicks spot at the 7? Sure. I could also see Boston moving up. Boston is severely underrated, I think. I mean, they're not having a great season, but they've been riddled by injuries. Kemba Walker is somebody who hasn't been able to stay healthy, but anytime you can line up Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum at 3-year starting 5, you're going to be pretty successful. I would like to see them get a big. If they're able to swoop up somebody like, Andre Drummond is a guy they've been in talks with. Shoot, even if they go get someone like Hassan Whiteside, who's been rumored to be out there and available, I think that's someone who's pretty good. Well, going into the play-in tournament, though, because I have somebody who's not on the board that Andrew mentioned, I think Washington's going to make it. The problem with the Chicago Bulls having to hold on to wins against teams that aren't very good is that when people see the Chicago Bulls on the schedule, they say that that's a team that's not very good. So, I'm going to take Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook to just will them into the playoffs. Russell Westbrook has shown us he can do it before in Oklahoma City without Durant, without Harden. He had Paul George for 1 year, but he had 3 straight years where he took them to the playoffs in the harder Western Conference. For me, I think Boston wins between that 7 and 8 seed right now. Indiana holds on to that 9. Washington moves up into the 10 seed. Indiana beats Washington. Boston is the 7, and then Indiana beats Washington, and then Indiana beats the Knicks. So for me, it'd be the 7 be Boston, the 8 seed would be Indiana. That would be what I would project if we were going forward.
Yeah, so just I didn't include them, but the Bulls Washington is 3 games behind the Bulls at 15 and 25. But yeah, there's still 30 games left to go in the season. So, like you said, willing to victory is completely possible.
I mean, the other night, Russell Westbrook had a triple-double. I don't think I'm blowing anybody's mind by saying that. Like 35, 11, and 14. Bradley Beal had like 43 and 5. I mean, I'm not saying they can do that consistently, but Bradley Beal is the leading scorer in the NBA right now. Russell Westbrook is just going to get hotter. I mean, he had a really poor start to the beginning of the season. But, not that people are undervaluing the COVID thing, but people are kind of undervaluing the COVID thing. Like, there are a lot of players that have talked about how it's affected everything, their mentals, their physical abilities. Once they get it, it takes a little while for them to get back. Seeing players and teammates not be able to play due to it is something that really takes a toll on a team. So, I just think that Washington's a team to be reckoned with, especially when you have 2 great players like that. Like, who's Chicago's second best player? Kobe White? Like, no, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And even the Knicks. Who's the Knicks' second best player? RJ Barrett? Like, is it Derrick Rose off the pine? Like, it's just I'm not sold on them. I think that there's an opportunity for Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook to bring that team into the playoff tournament. They're not going to win because they'll play the Pacers, and the Pacers are really good. One thing that does scare me about the Pacers, just because the Pacers are who they are, they were 4th in the league last year in defensive rating. They only allowed 107 points per game. They've slid all the way to 20th now, and they allow almost 113 points a game. So that's something that if they want to be successful, they're going to have to clean up. Again, I think injuries have played a big factor, but I mean, their starting lineup when they're healthy, right? Because I mean, who would have thought Karis LeVert? They trade for Karis LeVert, who was a darling of the bubble last season, willed the Nets there for a little bit, and they trade for him. I thought that was a great signing when they have him. You start Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, Jeremy Lamb, Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner. I mean, that's a good team. That's a good starting 5. And they've played almost no minutes together the entire season. I think they have played 0 minutes together all season. So that's my thought on that.
I was watching some Indiana Pacers the other day, and they kind of looked like they were, like just trying to put it together a little bit. So 30 more games, I can see them putting it together like quite a bit during that time.
I'm not confident in the Bulls one. I'm not really confident in any of those bottom tier teams in the Eastern Conference, unfortunately. So I like Zach LaVine, but
yeah, definitely. So we're moving on to the West now. So as we kind of mentioned before, we have the Jazz at the top. We talked about LeBron and the Lakers being just a couple of games out in the 2 seed. We'll talk about the play-in tournament first. So 7 through 10 right there. Again, I don't have the whole standings on the whole standings on the board. If it were to end today, and we have a little bit more division here. If we're looking at it like I shouldn't say division. Like if we're looking at the top 3 here in the East, there's a clear division between the top 3 and then everybody else, right? Over here in the West, we have a little bit more balance, so to speak. The Lakers and the Golden State Warriors are 6.5 games apart. So okay, that's not a small number by any means, but
they're just more good teams.
Yeah, there's more good teams in the West. Okay, so play-in tournament. What are you guys thinking in the West here?
I believe it's going to pretty much stay where it's at. I think there's an opportunity for Dallas to move up just because I really like Dallas. I think they were my sleeper team coming into the year. I talked about that on the last show. Think that this is going to stand pat. I think if right now this holds, which is what I'm assuming, Dallas beats the Spurs. And then, Asa said to have a hot take ready. I'm always here ready to spit fuego. Memphis will beat the Warriors and make it. So Memphis will beat the Warriors. Then they'll beat the Spurs. So I'd have Dallas as the 7. I'd have Memphis as the 8. It scares me to say that because Steph Curry, can just take over a game and win one game. If we're in a one-game sample size, Steph Curry can go out there, hit 10 threes, and the game's over. We never talk about it again.
So Utah, and Memphis in the first round, Lakers and the Mavs, and you would have Phoenix hosting the Trailblazers, Clippers potentially hosting the Nuggets. Some of the top might move around. Like you did say, the Nuggets probably move up a little bit.
It's a possibility, but I really don't know, man. The Clippers are good. The Suns are really good. The Suns are. Right. Be careful of the Suns, bro.
Not many people are talking about them when you got. I think Utah and Phoenix kind of coming into their own this year, and Utah having the best record for now has kind of put a little slight damper on the Phoenix Suns' potential. I didn't include 3 teams. It was the Pelicans, Kings, and Thunder, who all stand at 17 and 24 right now. So that's 3 games difference. 3 games below Memphis.
I had high hopes for the Pelicans too, man. It just hasn't come to fruition this year, unfortunately. Yeah. Lonzo's playing really well. I'll give Lonzo his props, but I thought they were going to be a lot better. One thing I will say, because I'm not, Steph Curry is amazing. He's he's the greatest shooter of all time. He's going to go down as one of the greatest players of all time. And once you look at the top 10, for me, it's top 10. For other people, maybe top 5. For me, it's top 10 to 15 max. He is right now second though in the league. In real plus minus, and he's second in real plus minus wins. We'll get into who's number 1. You may be able to take a guess, but I'll talk about it a little later. I'll let Andrew go ahead and take over what he thinks about the play-in here.
I'll follow your hot take with my hot take. I think that the Warriors actually make the play-in tournament at the 9 seed, and Steph drops 40 plus in both games to lead the Warriors to qualify for the 8th seed. I don't think they go any further than that, but I think he drops 40 in both of those play-in tournament games. I hope in some way we get to see maybe Luka versus Steph in some way, but I think the Mavericks have a chance of moving up to 7, possibly 6. But again, there's a lot of teams at the top of the West that are really good, like even in the middle, like we mentioned, the Blazers and Nuggets are really good. The Clippers I don't see dropping out of the top 4. The Suns, I guess, just based on their history, you could make a case for them dropping out of the top 4, but just based on their play this year, they only have 13 losses on the season, which is the second best in the NBA, just like the Lakers. So I don't really know about I don't want to make that assumption about the Suns right now, just based on their prior history. But I would love to see a Luka Steph matchup in the play-in games. That would just be, a one-off game to make the playoffs, and you can't really get more exciting than that with those 2 guys. So that's my hot take: 40 plus for Steph in both play-in games, and they make the 8th seed. Yeah. I'll talk about Portland in a second when we get to our surprise teams. But, those 4 teams, the Spurs, Mavericks, Warriors, Grizz, in whatever fashion you want to sort them, those 7 through 10, I'd probably be those teams. Like Johnny mentioned, the Pelicans are disappointment, and the other teams just stink. The Rockets have lost 19 games in a row, those poor guys.
Yeah.
Isn't that absurd? 19? It's a quarter of the season. You just lost all of them.
The last time they won a game was before the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl.
Oh my God, it's so terrible.
You need to get this Gonzaga Bulldogs roster onto the Houston Rockets as soon as possible.
Yeah, they'll have the picks.
I guess my quick take on this is, I do see the top 6 teams being where they are. I could probably see the Clippers potentially dropping to 5, but that would probably be the only move between the Nuggets and Clippers that I would feel confident in trying to flip. I do think the Trailblazers will finish as the 6th seed. I like Dallas and I'm gonna say I like Dallas and the Spurs. Uh, Dallas is the 7th
Solid.
seed. Spurs
Solid.
Spurs is the 8th seed. Not a knock on Steph or anything, but I think they'll fall short in the second playoff game. I do think Steph will get them to that you know do or die between the Spurs and them, but I don't know. I'm not 100% in on Golden State, and I don't think the way they played this year have deserved to make it. Clay Thompson aside, like, I feel bad for them losing so many key players the last few seasons, but they won their championships because everything happened at the right time, and that's just the way it goes. Like, you got to have good timing to be able to make it, be successful in this league, or you overcome that, right? And like when we're looking at like why LeBron probably should be MVP is because he's overcame that. Good morning, Lord Lizzie. He's overcome like losing his second best player. So, okay, so we're gonna move on to our surprise team. So surprise team in all of the NBA. I'll start. Mine are the Denver Nuggets. Not that I. So the way that if I'm looking at the standings here right here, I can see them advancing to I could see them getting to the Western Conference Finals, and so that would be because they would meet the Lakers there and then lose again as they did last year. I can see them getting past the Clippers. They were down 3-1 last year to the Clippers. I think the Clippers have the pressure on them again to not fail. I can see them getting past. So that would be the first round matchup, right? And then okay, so they have to face the Spurs or the Utah Jazz. I'm okay with putting my money on the Nuggets versus the Jazz, and so I could see a scenario. I don't know what their win-loss record is this season against them. The only thing is I don't like about Denver is that they don't have much like depth behind Jokic. So I would like them to maybe try to get a center if they could before the season ends. I know like DeMarcus Cousins is out there too, and Jay had kind of already mentioned like Andre Drummond is potentially getting moved as far as big men go. I just would like them to maybe have a little bit more depth there because, as we kind of said, like Jokic doesn't get his presence isn't like the strongest inside the paint. So I feel like that's probably like their weakness that isn't going to allow them to win the West this year, but puts them potentially in the Western Conference Finals.
Something that used to be just for Denver real quick. Something that was a little underrated was they used to have Mason Plumlee, and he signed a big contract with Detroit this last season. Mason Plumlee does, obviously he's not Nikola Jokic, but he does a lot of things that Nikola Jokic does. Great rebounder, great at the rim, great passer. So that you're talking about depth. That's somebody that they lost. They used to even have Yusuf Nurkic before he had to leave. So, they used to have a good amount of depth behind Jokic, but has seen that kind of dwindle a little bit.
So the only thing that I like get a little hesitant, but I think I could just I think Denver's biggest matchup to overcome would be, with Rudy Gobert from the Jazz. Like if they can't kind of figure out like how to figure out the Jazz, like I know obviously like the offense doesn't necessarily run through Rudy Gobert, but I think they could have some trouble with him. So that would be like my antithesis to them not making it, is because they would get sucker punched by the Jazz, and not sucker punched because the Jazz are probably going to be the 1 seed, right? Or at least in this scenario they are. But yeah, Andrew, who's your surprise?
I wanted to throw in there. My surprise team is going to be Portland, and I'll talk about them right now. I just want to throw in there too. If you mentioned the Clippers having some pressure. Kawhi Leonard is in the second year of his 3-year deal and hasn't opted out after this year. So if they flop, Clipper Nation, just be on the lookout. He's moved before. He's voiced displeasure, and so if there ever was a time for you to hope that your big players perform, they better be now. But my surprise team is Portland. They're tied with Denver. I guess you can call them 6th or 5th, whatever you want to call them. Now that the return of CJ McCollum has kind of ignited them a little bit with his first 30-point game. They've been able to use that to win 3 games in a row. Once Yusuf Nurkic, you mentioned him, Jay. He used to be in Denver, now is a staple in the middle in Portland, and they really need him back for not only his defensive presence. He's a great offensive player, especially on that low block. Got every move in the book. He's very shifty, very quick on his feet for a big man, just similar to Jokic. He returns in 10 days, and it'll be the first time Portland has a full strength squad once he gets back. And we can mention Melo real quick too. Melo, in the absence of CJ, was balling, was averaging about 22 points for what was like 46% shooting from the 3-point line, which is absurd. I don't expect it to stay that way, but I think Portland could. Dame is at the top of his game right now, and if he was going to will them and he has one last shot to get them as far as they can, maybe get another chance at the Western Conference Finals, hopefully not running into the juggernaut that was once the Golden State Warriors, that they can maybe make a deep, surprising run.
So you have him right now. Well, we'll look at just how it stands right now. They go play at Phoenix. So you give them a good chance against Phoenix.
I think they're a good matchup, especially if Nurkic is healthy. You have a great backcourt in McCollum and Dame, and you have DeAndre Ayton, for what he is very good. I think Yusuf Nurkic is a better player. You'd be worrisome of Chris Paul, and Michael Bridges over there in Phoenix is a great on-ball defender. So that's something that they're going to have to keep an eye out for. But Portland's got their own array of great shooters and talent on the other side with Melo and Gary Trent Jr. and also Derrick Jones Jr., who's not really like a guy that you would count on to be super impactful, but just kind of does a little bit of everything except for shoot.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, so we obviously know that the standings are going to flip again, and we'll cover that as the playoffs get closer. Who's your surprise team though, as it were right now?
Yeah, so coming into it, it'd have to be the Phoenix Suns. Last year they finished the season. They were 34-39, but that was old. I mean, you have to look at it. They were 8-0 in the bubble, so they were sitting at 26-39 for a minute there. Monty Williams came in and was able to really turn this team around. When you look at their numbers this season, they're number 4 in offensive points opponents' points per game allowed, which is great. They're number 3 in point differential, plus 6.3. The addition of Chris Paul, I mean, we all knew they were going to be good. Did anybody think they were going to be the third team in the West? I certainly don't think so. So they're a team that I think has definitely overperformed if you look at what their projections were coming into the year. So, yeah, I would say Phoenix is my surprise team this year so far.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, Chris Paul, man, could have been a Laker. Okay, who are we staying away from? Who is our nope team? Okay, so I'll lead it off again. Sorry, let me go back. I'm gonna talk about. I just love to talk crap about top teams in the East, but my nope team is the Brooklyn Nets. I just get too many 2003 Lakers vibes, and that's why I'm choosing the Nets. Not because of who's on the team, how well they're playing. It's just they built a small super team, and they're trying to do it in a year, and I just don't see them thriving. So who's going to knock them off, right? So I don't think they would lose in the first round. Potentially, like if they drew like an Indiana Pacers, that would be a little tough for them. But I think they could still make that. I just don't like them coming out of the East. So I would choose Philly or Milwaukee, specifically Milwaukee, to beat them. My take is that the Nets are too loaded. Yes, they have the best record. I just think they maybe in my mind they hit their stride and they're doing well. But one thing has to go wrong, right? And what's going to go wrong is when Kevin Durant comes back. They're playing really well without Kevin Durant, right? He's not back yet, right? Am I not losing my mind, right? Yeah. So how are you going to change? Because everything changes once Durant's back. So because I think they just loaded their team with too much. I just think that they take a step back. They're not the Golden State Warriors where Steph and Klay are shooters and Draymond. Scrappy plays all over the court, and then with Durant on that team, Durant could be the playmaker all he wanted. James Harden requires the ball to make plays, right? Kevin Durant is the same. Kyrie is the one that can defer there. But I just think that they have two strong heads at the neck, and that will bring them down. Much like the Lakers lost to a very balanced, hard playing Detroit Pistons team.
Yeah, it can be difficult, right, to keep chemistry when you have two superstars playing on a team with three of them, and one of them's out for a little bit of while, and you get on a good run. The team that I'm going to talk about that I don't believe in, the Boston Celtics, they kind of dealt with that with Kemba Walker, and Kemba's no KD, but they would really like to see more out of Kemba this year. He's getting close back to his average, about 20 points, and this is and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been playing a lot better than they have in past years. Jason Tatum's up to 28 points a game. Jaylen Brown's up above 25. Both are playing excellent basketball, but Kemba needs to probably improve a little bit. He's shooting 39% from the field, and this is one of those situations where you bring a superstar back into a situation where Boston wasn't necessarily rolling in the beginning of the season, but they were kind of finding their stride, and then Kemba came back in. And a problem that they're having, which their coach Brad Stevens touched on, is they're running a lot of isolation. And they're worried about their engagement. They only average 22 assists on the season, which is fourth worst in the league, and they run ISO plays on 8.1% of their plays, which is the sixth most in the NBA. So again, this goes back to the thing about chemistry and trying to find the right ways to be able to use all three guys. So I see what you're saying about the Nets. It can definitely be a hurdle that they have to climb and figure out that chemistry. I think they'll be able to do it at least for this year to be able to make a deep playoff run. The only team I could see standing in the way realistically is Milwaukee, and Giannis would have to take that big leap forward that everyone's been hoping he takes in the playoffs. But the team that I don't believe in, and it's not just because I'm a Lakers fan, I just don't like. I'm not liking Boston's.
Yeah, it's all about
the way they're trending
right
now. Yeah, they've lost their last three, and two of those were against Sacramento and Cleveland, and they're just games where you probably should win. You probably got to win those games against teams that aren't even remotely close to the playoff race.
We both talked about chemistry. You talked about having the subtraction of players because of injuries, and then them just not having their full deck at hand. I'm talking about once they add in Durant, I just can see that chemistry leading them to failure. Just want to call it Elizabeth's comment real quick. My nope team is the Milwaukee Bucks. Get the Buck out of here. Okay, all right. Well, give us a reason why. Why don't you like the Bucks? Or is it just because you think the Nets and the Sixers are going to do it, or is it because Giannis chokes in the playoffs? What's your reason, Elizabeth? Let us know in the comment section down below. All right, Jay. So we set it up here nicely for you. Is your nope team in the East or the West?
It's the West. And it's the number one seed in the West, baby. Utah, I mean, they're great. They're having a great regular season. The emphasis is on the regular. That's something that we've always questioned about the Utah Jazz. Mike Conley coming in was a great addition, but, I mean, if you look at the last 4 years, the last two, they've been bounced in the first round. The two before that was when they made their deeper playoff runs in the second rounds. I mean, my big question is, once it gets to the semis and the Western Conference Finals, are you going to pick them to win in a 7-game series over the Lakers? No. Are you going to pick them to win in a 7-game series over the Suns? Probably not. Over the Clippers? Probably not. Over the Nuggets? I know Ace is not. And honestly, I probably wouldn't pick them to win over the Trailblazers. So, I mean, again, I think they're having a great regular season. It's always just a question of how they're performing in the playoffs. But how they perform in the playoffs, but it's just not a team that I'm confident in, unfortunately. Donovan Mitchell is a player who's really great, but somebody who I have, not the most faith in. So my team that I'm not very confident in is the Utah Jazz, even though they're sitting right there at number one. The Lakers are closing in on that, though, so beware.
So Elizabeth's coming in, too. I don't like the Bucks solely so I could make that joke. Duh. All right. Well, the joke was a really good one. You gotta laugh out of all of us. Yeah, I'm with you. So we pretty much have two top teams that we don't think are gonna perform well in the playoffs. Andrew has the Boston Celtics, who are a storied franchise. So yeah, we all have really good franchises and teams not making a good splash this postseason. So if you had to pick, we're going to talk about who we think are MVPs. So I put up LeBron here because I think most of our picks, or I thought maybe consensus is going to be 2-1. We already kind of called it out earlier in the program. So I will let Andrew go first. Andrew, if you had to pick, who would be your MVP for the 2020-21 season?
I picked Giannis when we did it a little while ago. It, I don't know. Yeah, he's average. He's again. This is the third straight season that he's averaging 27, 11, 5, 1 and 1, which are steals and blocks. Johnny, stop. But I hate to be the guy, but I like it's got to be LeBron. He's 36. There, they have the second best record in the NBA. Him not being in NBA.com's Kia MVP ladder is kind of a travesty. If I could pick a word. Coming off a championship winning season, the shortest off season, 1.5 back of Utah, or two back now because Utah played last night. He scored 37 the other night. I mean, I don't know what else he has to do. If they're just finding, again, they're finding reasons to not give it to him instead of looking at the reasons to give it to him. And I'm not going to sit here and rant and rave over the fact that that's what they want to do. It's just what they want to do. And they did it with Kobe. He only had one. If you want to leave LeBron with 4 so he doesn't touch Magic Mike and gets a 5, so be it. But I'll let Johnny give the rest of the fanfare of why he should be the MVP.
Let me crack my knuckles and I'll rant and freaking rave because it's ridiculous. It's uncalled for. It's short-sighted. It's anything you want to come up with. It's not okay. It's not okay. The gentleman is number 1 in real plus minus. Number 1. He's number 1 real plus minus. If you don't know what real plus minus is, they take your numbers when your team's on the floor, they take your number when he's off the floor, and then whatever you are, however the point differential weighs out, bam, that's what you get. He's number 1 at almost 10 flipping points. When you look at real plus minus win share, he's in first. The Lakers would be 5 games under 500 right now without LeBron. 5 games under 500. They have Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder. They have Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder, and this gentleman has them at 10 more games won. The second place is Steph Curry. So Steph Curry's not my favorite guy, but that's pretty darn good. Okay. Again, he even said it the other day in the press conference. It would mean a lot to him to win again. He's 36 years old, and he should have more than 4. Because he should have more than 4. He's been the best player on the planet for the last, 12 years at least. And I might be selling him a little short. You can't average 51% from the field, 37% from the 3-point line. It's and then like I said earlier, you would think they were 5th in the West, right? Because he's 4th in the MVP ladder. He's behind guys like Jokic and Lillard, who are tied for 5th, and Giannis, who's 3rd in the freaking Eastern Conference. No, they are 2nd in the West. 2 games behind the best record in the flipping NBA, and he doesn't have his second best player. It's unbelievable. I can't have it. I won't say. I got you, LeBron. Don't worry, man. I got you. It's just not okay.
All right. Wow. Okay.
Ace,
so,
Ace, what do you think? I think we know where you're going. But what do you think, man?
Okay. So, stats aside, I think the without a doubt the 100% needs to happen is LeBron needs to be MVP. I like Jokic because I just like the season he's putting up. I like that. I wouldn't have said he was the best player on that team last year with Jamal Murray, being on that squad. Jamal Murray taking a step back makes me like Jokic even more. I will still continue to be a Jokic stan for the rest of the season. But if I had to pick today, I think LeBron James wins the MVP because he's just phenomenal. There's no effing reason that
smart man
that he should be doing this at 36 and
he's stuck in a hotel room with his team for 3 months in a bubble, won the championship, and then had 2 months to get ready for the next season.
We also
72 days.
We also characterize the MVP as not just being the most valuable on the court, but I would say he's the most valuable NBA player off the court as well.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
He does so much for his image because he is who he is, and so I respect the hell out of him because he contributes not just to what's best for the NBA, but what's best for his children, what's best for his people. When the players walked out of the bubble, and said, we need to make a stand. We need to have this, that before we come back in. LeBron was right there with everybody too, and making sure like his voice was heard the loudest. So I respect him a lot for that.
I'll just throw in there too, real quick. Everyone before the season started, this is the shortest offseason that any association has ever had, right? Any major professional sports league. What did we hear? Oh, LeBron's going to take some days off. He's going to go ahead. He's going to take some rest days. He's missed 3 games. He's missed 3 games. They're second in the West.
And one of those games was right before the All-Star game. They gave him a day. They gave him a day of rest.
No, God forbid. Yeah, no.
And we lost that game for what it's worth.
No, Kawhi and Paul George take every other game off. Every other game they take off, and nobody bats an eye at it. LeBron James takes 3 games off. I mean, come on, man. He plays the most games. He's played the most minutes. Every stat you want to put up, dude, he has them all. What's the conversation we're having now? I mean, his team has one of the best records in the league. It's like Andrew said. You just don't want to give it to him at some point. So look at Kobe. Right? My doll. Right here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Steve Nash twice.
Yeah. Their barometer has changed 100% since Nash got the title to now. But it really, in ways it has, in ways it hasn't. Like, in ways they're still trying to figure out ways to not give it to the best player in the league at the time. Because they're maybe focusing too much on stats. But also, because would Steve Nash have won the MVP this, with his same stats this year? I don't think so. So I think, the MO is still kind of the same, but, players that maybe don't deserve it are still winning. So
again, when Nash won his MVPs, he was averaging 18 points a game. I said earlier in the show, there's 41 NBA players averaging 20-plus points a game. 41.
Yeah.
Steve Nash would not win an MVP. It wouldn't happen.
To be the most valuable player in your team would mean essentially you have a game plan, you stick to that game plan. If the coach has you be the facilitator all night, getting as many assists as possible, and that's how you win the games, okay, I get that. But, there's also another, that's just looking at it black or white, and this award is not black or white to the rest of us, right? We don't look at it as if it's, I'd look at stats or I look at lack of stats, right? Like you can just tell right off the bat who the conversation's going to be, how teams would react, and how they play without their best player.
Speaking to that a little bit, Ace, right? You talk about having a game plan, right? So the game plan for the Lakers, especially with Anthony Davis out right now, is pretty much just this. LeBron, we need you to go out there. We need you to score the most points. We also need you to get the most rebounds. While you're at it, we need you to facilitate the most and get the most assists. Oh, and don't forget, you also need to guard the best player on the other side and get the most stocks, which are rebounds and blocks, that you possibly can, for us to have the best defensive rating and best defensive efficiency that we possibly can. That's the game. Normally this is something like, hey, Devin Booker, you go out there and score. Chris Paul, you're going to be the facilitator. DeAndre Ayton, you handle the paint. The Lakers pretty much just say, LeBron, you got this, right? Okay, all right. There you go. Just making sure. That's it. I'm done. I don't even want to talk.
Cool. So we gave you our MVP selections maybe twice in the show. Let's talk about our NBA champs. So tell me your 2 teams in the finals, and tell me if you had to pick, and who would it be? I'll go first. I have the Bucks and the Lakers in the finals, and if I had to choose today, it would be the Lakers repeating, because by that time Anthony Davis would be back, defending champs. The only thing that scares me if Giannis takes it up to that next level, I would be a little worried with that team, but I think he has. I think Giannis is not gonna make it to that next level enough to win the title. I think he can knock off those Nets, but I don't see them cutting down the Nets over the Lakers. I like the Lakers over the Bucks, and it probably would be in 5, like the Lakers last season. If I was gonna give a team a shot to take the Lakers to 7, it would probably be in the Western Conference Finals against either maybe the Nuggets or the Utah Jazz. and maybe if there was an East team that could push him to 7, it would maybe be the Nets, but I don't see the Nets making it there. So Lakers over Bucks in 5.
Love the pick, especially as a Lakers fan. I'm gonna also pick the Lakers to make it out of the West. I'm going to put the Nets actually there. I think that the Nets will make it this year. I don't know what they're going to look like going forward. They are all on contracts for their next couple of years, but this is the matchup that I think everyone wants to see, and I think the matchup will be given once it's all said and done. And it'll honestly be the defining moment for LeBron. Doesn't need any more defining moments, but if he could knock off these guys, it would just solidify what everybody already knows. But it's a defining moment for every one of the Nets superstars. Kyrie has something to prove that he can do it without LeBron. KD needs to prove that he can do it without LeBron, although without Steph and Clay, although he added Kyrie and Harden. And then Harden just needs to prove that he can win a title. And I don't think either of those three get to prove what they're set out to prove. So I think the Lakers win. I think it'll be in probably 7 if they do meet. They're just the 2 best teams in my opinion. I don't know if you have anything different than that, Jay, but Lakers versus Nets, Lakers in 7.
You know, you guys are 2 smart, intelligent, handsome fellas, and I'm going to agree that the Lakers win in 6. I think they beat the Nets. Just to throw this out there, right? Super team, right? LeBron beat the Warriors, down 3-1, 7 games, with KD, Draymond, Steph, Clay. If he beats the freaking Nets this year, wins his 4th championship, and beats Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, it's a wrap, right? This is my dog, right? Forever in my heart, right here. This is my dog. But I mean, how do you not say he's the greatest ever, man? You know what I'm saying? With how many finals he's been to, the teams he's had to beat. I mean, Jesus, man.
Done more with less.
I mean, guys. I mean, Matthew Dellavedova was shining in the finals, bro. I just being honest, dude. And if he's able to win it again this year, James Harden is a top 5 player in the league right now. Kyrie Irving is a top 10, 15 player in the league right now. Kevin Durant, we're not 100% sure what he is after injury, but he's like a top 3 player in the league. Like if you're starting a team right now, it's like Kawhi, LeBron, and Durant. And and they all 3 of them just teamed up against this guy. And he's got AD. But our 3rd best player is Dennis Schroeder? How much better is Kyrie Irving than Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah, I mean, you could even say like Anthony Davis now is just severely underrated as far as like teammates go on top teams.
I mean, he's just unbelievable, man. And I think he's going to win the championship. Yeah, surprise, freaking surprise. I think he's going to win the championship. I mean, if
he wins the title, if he wins it this year, it'll be 5 titles after 5 titles and 10 out of 11 seasons making the finals.
Right. So, we've never seen.
Dope stats for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we had to pick, you heard our picks. If you had to pick, let us know in the comment section down below. We love to talk on this AJA Sports Show. Mm-hmm. That's why our shows run a little long when we talk about the things that we love.
No bias.
Just so happens to be that we love the Lakers, not just from a jaded fanboy perspective, but game recognizes game, and that's what we're recognizing this season.
It's a lot better to like them now than it was about 5 years ago. So anybody who has anything to say, let me have this.
Talking to you, Robert Sacre. Talking to you.
Let me have this. I mean, we were running out Jordan Hill and Xavier Henry, and people want to talk about the glorious franchise the Lakers are, and you're darn tootin' we are. But we've gone through some struggles. So now that I have LeBron James, I'm soaking this bad boy up, and you're going to hear me talk about – I'm going to say LeBron James once an episode. I'm just going to start to make this a thing. We're going to have NFL-only shows. I will find a way to speak the name of LeBron James.
This player reminds me of LeBron James.
Yep. How does he remind you of LeBron James? He really doesn't. I just need to talk about how great LeBron James was.
Thank you, Jay. We will take your LeBron James blurbs anytime we can. Thank you for being so heated and so passionate about what your stance, but also the things that you love. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the AJA Sports Show. You can support us by subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you can hop on these live chats with us. and and just talk with us too. We would love to hear from you guys. Please consider subscribing. Oh, let us know any thoughts you have. We're always on Twitter and Instagram, and we have a lot more fantasy content coming to you guys next week. This week was kind of just a whirlwind of sports news from the NFL signings, NCAA tournament kicking off, which is going on right now, and LeBron James and company lighting up the NBA. We will catch you guys on the next live show. We will be off. The three amigos here will be off for a few days because Jay and Andrew are going on a small little rendezvous to Florida. But you can catch me live a couple times next week. I'm going to be hopping on and going over some sports news, and we'll have some fun. Even if it's just me by myself, we'll still have a good show. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for hopping on. And yeah, great content as always.
Enjoy the weekend, guys.
We'll catch you guys on the next live show. Until then, bye.
Peace out.